Have you ever felt that strange tension? The one that hits your chest like a quiet ache when a woman starts texting you with warmth, curiosity, and excitement? In the beginning, it feels alive. Her words carry a spark that catches something inside you. The way she says good morning feels personal. The way she laughs through her messages feels intimate. The way she replies instantly makes you believe she's genuinely interested. There's rhythm, there's energy, and somewhere between the exchanges, you begin to feel like something real is growing. But then, as soon as you suggest taking that connection off the screen and into real life, everything changes. The air shifts, the warmth cools. Her responses slow down. Suddenly she's busy, tired, uncertain, or says, maybe another time. It's like watching the sun disappear behind unexpected clouds. You feel it, the shift, the distance, the subtle withdrawal, and that's when the confusion sets in. You start replaying everything, wondering what went wrong. You ask yourself if you said too much, if you moved too fast, if you read the signals wrong. But deep down, you sense something truer, something harder to face. Maybe her interest was never about meeting you at all. Maybe it was about the attention you gave her, the validation she felt through your effort, the comfort of being desired without having to reciprocate. Because in her world, the screen provides a shield. It gives her your energy without requiring her vulnerability. She gets to be adored while staying detached. And while you're there analyzing every punctuation mark, trying to decode meaning from emojis, convincing yourself you're building something genuine, what's actually happening is a slow emotional drain. She's taking your focus, your time, your thoughtfulness, all the subtle investments that make a man feel alive when he's pursuing something meaningful. But she's giving you something that costs her almost nothing. Words, digital affection, recycled phrases that feel sincere but carry no substance. The imbalance hides itself behind charm and attention, but it's there, quietly eroding your clarity. The truth that most men avoid is that texting isn't connection, it's performance. Through her messages, she gives you the easiest version of herself, filtered, edited, calculated. She doesn't have to be present. She doesn't have to risk rejection. She doesn't have to reveal who she really is. She only has to offer fragments of attention when it suits her. And because your mind fills in the gaps with hope, imagination, and emotion, you mistake fragments for fullness. You build meaning around her minimal effort because the illusion feels better than facing the truth, that she's never planning to step forward. That's the silent trap of digital affection. It mirrors intimacy but lacks weight. It mimics interest but hides avoidance. It promises connection but delivers emptiness. And while you keep showing up with consistency, she keeps offering you convenience. The Stoic man sees this and pauses. He recognizes that what feels like chemistry might only be a mirror reflecting his own longing back at him. He understands that attention is not affection, and consistency through a screen is not commitment. In that moment, he begins to reclaim his peace, because the illusion only has power when you believe it's real. The comfort of distance is a powerful illusion. It allows her to stay in control while still feeling wanted. Behind the safety of her screen, she can be whoever she wants to be. She can craft her words with precision, shape her tone, delete her mistakes, and choose when and how to reveal emotion. Every text becomes a performance, every message a small act of self-curation. In that world, she feels secure. She gets to maintain the warmth of attention without exposing the reality of who she truly is. There's no risk of awkward silences, no vulnerability in her body language, no pressure to live up to the emotional image she's created. The screen protects her from being seen in full light, and that's why she stays there. She can show up in your phone as the best version of herself, confident, playful, open, even affectionate. But in the real world, she might be unsure, anxious, guarded, or simply uninterested. The distance gives her time to think, to control, to manipulate her presence so it always feels just right. It gives her power. She never has to respond when she doesn't feel like it. She can disappear for hours, even days, and come back with a casual excuse, knowing you'll still be there waiting. Because every time she returns, she reignites your hope. She knows it. She feels the pull of your patience and the strength of your interest, and she uses both to keep you orbiting. This distance becomes her comfort zone. It's warm enough to feel wanted, but distant enough to feel safe. She can soak in your compliments, your care, your curiosity, all without stepping an inch closer. You're emotionally present, but she's emotionally protected. She gives you a few words, a few laughs, maybe a few late-night conversations, and you begin to think there's something meaningful growing between you. But it's not growth. It's a loop, a cycle she controls with precision. When she needs reassurance, she knows how to find you. When she wants to feel adored, she knows what to say. When she's bored or lonely, she knows your attention will fill the silence. And every time she does, she strengthens the illusion that something real exists. But real connection requires more than messages. It requires presence, effort, vulnerability. Texting gives her the illusion of closeness without the burden of responsibility. She can feel admired without risking disappointment. She can feel connection without commitment. And while she's wrapped in that safety, you're left carrying the emotional weight she never plans to share. The Stoic man learns to see through that comfort. He understands that distance disguised as connection is still distance. He sees that her comfort is built on his effort. He realizes that the emotional warmth she claims is fueled by his consistency, not her care. And that clarity is what separates him from the man who keeps chasing the illusion. The Stoic man doesn't beg for presence through a screen. He knows that genuine affection cannot survive in the shadows of convenience. The imbalance begins subtly. At first, it feels mutual. She replies quickly, laughs at your jokes, and keeps the conversation flowing. You feel seen. You feel wanted. But as time passes, a quiet shift occurs. You notice you're the one initiating more often, the one carrying the rhythm, the one putting thought into every message. She starts replying when she feels like it, not when the moment calls for it. She answers in shorter bursts, vague words, delayed responses, yet she always sends just enough to keep you invested. It's a cycle carefully built on control, a pattern where she dictates the flow and you adjust around her. Through the screen, she holds all the power. She decides when to engage and when to vanish, how deep the exchange goes, and how much of her attention you get. When she wants validation, she'll send a playful message that reignites your interest. When she wants space, she'll disappear into silence, leaving you to wonder what went wrong. It's emotional manipulation disguised as mystery. Each time she pulls away, you chase a little harder. Each time she returns, you feel relief, and that relief keeps you hooked. She trains your attention like a reward system. Affection when she needs it, distance when she wants control. What you don't realize at first is that texting gives her leverage she could never maintain face-to-face. Behind the screen, she's untouchable. She can ignore your messages without confrontation. She can control how she's perceived. She can play both warm and distant, always maintaining the upper hand. And while you invest emotion, time, and energy, she gives you only fragments, knowing those fragments are enough to keep you hopeful. That hope is what keeps her powerful. You start adjusting your tone to keep her interested. You think before replying so you don't sound too eager. You wait for her messages, feel the weight of her silence, and find yourself wondering what she's doing, who she's talking to, why she's drifting. That's the quiet trap. She has made you reactive while staying detached. You start measuring your worth through her attention, but she never measures hers through yours. The imbalance deepens until it becomes normal. You think it's just part of modern dating, when in truth it's a dynamic built on her convenience. The Stoic man begins to see it clearly. He sees that her inconsistency isn't confusion, it's control. He sees that her distance isn't shyness, it's design. She thrives on the imbalance because it keeps her desired without giving her responsibility. But the moment he sees the pattern, the game ends, because awareness destroys manipulation. He stops chasing responses. He stops filling the silence with explanations. He realizes that her absence is a statement, and her silence is an answer. The moment he withdraws his energy, the entire structure collapses. The woman who once controlled the rhythm loses her power because he no longer plays her tune. And in that silence, he reclaims what she quietly took: his peace, his focus, and his self-respect. When you finally stop giving her the constant attention she's grown accustomed to, the entire energy between you shifts. It doesn't happen with dramatic arguments or long explanations. It happens in silence. A silence that speaks louder than any word ever could. She's so used to your quick replies, your eagerness, your steady presence, that when it suddenly fades, she feels something she didn't expect to feel: uncertainty. The same uncertainty she used to make you feel. At first she brushes it off, telling herself you're probably just busy or distracted. But as time passes, the quiet starts to echo. She begins to notice that the pattern she once controlled no longer exists. The rhythm she dictated is gone, and for the first time, she's the one waiting. She scrolls through your old messages, rereading the ones where your energy was full of warmth and consistency. She compares it to now, where your replies are shorter, slower, colder. She can sense the withdrawal. It unsettles her, because deep down, she never thought you'd pull back. She assumed you'd always be available, ready to engage, ready to reassure. She relied on your consistency as emotional oxygen. And now that you've cut the supply, she begins to realize how much power she had over you, and how much she's losing. What unsettles her most isn't your absence, it's your composure. You're not begging for attention. You're not arguing. You're not trying to fix anything. You've simply stopped feeding the dynamic that kept her comfortable, and that silence becomes a mirror. It forces her to see the truth she's been avoiding, that she was never giving you real effort, only convenient affection. The more silent you become, the louder her thoughts grow. She wonders if someone else has your attention, if you've moved on, if your interest has faded completely. For the first time, she's not the one in control of the emotional distance. Your silence isn't revenge, it's revelation. It shows her what life feels like without your steady presence propping up her ego. It exposes how much of the connection existed only because of your effort. The absence of your energy reveals the weight of her inconsistency. And the irony is, the very distance she once relied on for comfort becomes the distance she now fears. The man she kept at arm's length suddenly feels unreachable, not because you've vanished, but because you've evolved. You've chosen peace over participation. The Stoic man understands that silence isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's the act of letting the truth do the talking. When you stop explaining yourself to people who never intended to understand you, you stop losing energy to empty spaces. She begins to feel what you once felt: the confusion, the imbalance, the longing. But by then, it no longer matters. You've outgrown the illusion. Your silence is not punishment. It's freedom. It's the quiet power of a man who no longer chases what refuses to meet him halfway. Eventually, reality catches up. The illusion she built begins to crumble the moment she realizes the man she once toyed with has mastered detachment. She feels the difference, not just in your silence, but in your energy. It's calmer, grounded, untouchable. You no longer react to her messages the way you used to. There's no spark of excitement in your replies, no urgency to reconnect, no effort to revive what's already dead. The shift is subtle, but to her it's undeniable. You've become what she never expected, a man who no longer needs her validation. And that, to her, is the deepest loss. She tries to re-engage, maybe with a nostalgic message or a soft attempt at conversation. She might test the waters with something simple like, "Hey, it's been a while," hoping you'll open the door she once slammed shut. But this time you don't take the bait. You've seen behind the curtain. You understand the pattern. You know that her sudden curiosity isn't born from love. It's born from the shock of losing control. She doesn't miss you. She misses the feeling of being desired by you. She misses the comfort of knowing she could reach out and you'd still be there. But the man who's found inner stillness doesn't entertain old chaos. He doesn't re-enter cycles that lead nowhere. There's a quiet strength in your restraint. You don't delete her messages. You don't lash out. You don't boast about moving on. You simply remain unmoved. Because you've learned that true mastery isn't loud, it's silent. You've learned that peace isn't something you find in others. It's something you protect within yourself. You no longer chase closure or explanation because you understand that closure isn't given. It's chosen. The same woman who once left you waiting now finds herself waiting for a response that will never come. That reversal isn't revenge. It's the natural consequence of imbalance correcting itself. She starts to see what she lost. Not a man desperate for attention, but a man who knew how to love deeply without losing himself. A man who could have built something real if she had met him with honesty instead of games. But that realization comes too late. She mistook your patience for weakness and your kindness for dependence. Now she understands that the man who controls his emotions controls everything. He doesn't need to prove his worth through reaction. He knows who he is without needing validation. The Stoic man walks away, not because he stopped caring, but because he finally understood that peace is priceless. He no longer invests in temporary attention disguised as affection. He no longer explains his silence or justifies his distance. He simply moves forward carrying the lessons that pain taught him. And as she watches you disappear into your new calm, she finally realizes that she didn't lose a man who needed her. She lost a man who had mastered himself. A man who once cared deeply, but learned that real strength lives in walking away with grace.